So we'll go into more depth here on this, and we'll bring in Glenn Spencer now, who's going to talk about what this could mean for the overall immigration issue.
Glenn Spencer, an old friend I've known for any number of years, Francesca, John. We are so pleased that Glenn is taking time to join us today. He is president of the American Border Patrol. He makes his home in Arizona. Glenn, it is good to have you back here on America's Forum.
Well, I'm glad you're here today. It's a delight. You're looking healthy. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to get the opportunity to talk about what I think was an important decision on the part of Governor Perry.
Yeah, the question I had been asking, why hadn't the governor done it earlier? We spoke with Texas Congressman Ted Poe. He said it was really more of a budgetary issue, that if the president called out the Guard as national commander-in-chief, it would be on the Fed's dime. But this situation is one where Texas has to pay for it. So finally, Perry makes the decision. Do you welcome this decision by Governor Perry?
Oh, yes, I do. I was somewhat critical when he first announced that he wanted to, Barack Obama to send the National Guard to the border. I wasn't critical of him, but rather his advisors. Now, as you know, I live right on the border. American Border Patrol is a nonprofit. We have been patrolling the border in airplanes and analyzing the situation down here for years. And we knew from our observations and study that the deployment of National Guard under Obama would almost be a complete waste of time. Okay. And the reason for that is he has placed such restrictions on the use of the Guard. For example, they cannot patrol. They have to stay in one place. They cannot have ammunition. They cannot apprehend people. And based on our aerial observations, and I've taken high-resolution aerial photographs of every National Guard outpost ever placed on the border here in Arizona, they are ill-equipped. They have no power. They have a little pup tent. And the other thing that Obama did is next to every one of their tents, not a pup tent, it's a tent, they placed a brand new white SUV. So they stand out like a sore thumb. The other thing is, because they have no ammunition, there are federal rules whereby the Border Patrol has to provide force protection. So in other words, when you put the National Guard on the border, under the rules set by the Obama administration, they are a burden on the Border Patrol. Now, under Perry, and I'm really delighted he made this decision, he's got more control.
Well, we're hearing some reports also, and it was reported on the show yesterday, that many of these National Guard troops are not going to be on the border, but instead in some of those cities and towns just on the other side of this border. And Glenn, as we know, the problem is, the folks get into the country, and then once they get here, they're here for a long time. Do we still think the Border Control can do anything if that's the case?
Well, this hasn't been brought up, but in the last month I've done 2 aerial surveillance flights. I'm the pilot. I fly a Cessna 206, especially equipped, and I've flown out there and we've done surveillance. And what we find is that, and we knew this years ago when we flew out in 2009 and did our surveillance, one of the main lines of defense in the Rio Grande sector are the levees that parallel the Rio Grande River. Now, those levees are built to do what? Stop the river from leaving its banks, right?
Right.
Well, they decided they should also be used to stop people from leaving the river by placing fences on top of those levees, and they've done that to a certain extent. And I've sent you some graphics on this. I don't know if you can use them, but the point is, they spent hundreds of millions of dollars in reinforcing those levees so you could put fences on top of them. But the problem is, they have places along there where roads run into the property between the levee and the river, so people can reach their property, ranchers, etc. Now, there was designed gaps so people could get in and out, but they also designed electric gates to be put on those gaps. Well, Obama decided, not to put them in right away, if ever. So what we found, and we sent you the graphics on this, every quarter of a mile or half mile, there was a huge 40-foot gap. Now, I would hope that the governor would ask the president if he would please install those electric gates. They can be opened and closed for access. This is a serious problem, and one that I think should be addressed.
Well, you talked about the governor speaking with the president. Of course, that happened, a week ago when the president showed up in Texas. But speaking of that, when you got Rick Perry and President Obama together, there remain some disagreements. Now we're hearing, Glenn, that the number of unaccompanied juveniles crossing the border is dropping, at least in the Rio Grande Valley. And there are two very different points of view about this as to why that's happening. The Obama administration saying one thing, Governor Perry saying another. Let's take a listen, let both sides have their say, and I'd like to get your take on this. First, to White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest.
We do believe that the administration's response and efforts to work with Central American leaders to publicize the dangers of the journey and reinforce that apprehended migrants are ultimately returned to their home countries in keeping with the law, as well as seasonal flows, have all played a part.
And now we're going to hear from Texas Governor Rick Perry as he was calling out the Guard. Here's what the governor had to say. Sorry, we do not have that, but obviously Governor Perry believes stepping up enforcement, sending people back, has worked. Glenn, what I've seen for so long is that people treat this as a political problem to be managed rather than a national security threat to be stopped. From your point of view, are we still in the political give and take, or are finally some people waking up on this thing?
As you know, I've been down here for 12 years and working on a solution to the problem. I believe we have come up with it. Years ago, I started up and ran a seismic exploration company, worked for Arco Chevron. And about 4 years ago, I installed seismic oil exploration equipment on my ranch right on the border. And we've been testing it. And what this system does, it's buried, it's solar powered, it's cheap, you can't see it. It detects people at 600 feet. It counts everybody who crosses the border. What I would like to see, I would love to invite Governor Perry here to my ranch and to John Latt's ranch right next to me. He's got 10 miles on the border, to show him something that we could install on the tops of every one of those levees. So it's no longer a question of trusting who. We would know for sure how many people are crossing, where are they crossing, and come up with a figure of merit or a metric, which the DHS has been avoiding for years. And I gave a paper on this last year, and I won't go into that. It's on our website.
We have less than a minute left, but let me just get this in.
What we need is an objective measure of where do we stand. You cannot trust the people that are in power back there to tell you the truth. I can prove that.
Well,
so
Glenn,
I would hope. Go ahead.
You want Governor Perry to come. While you're at it, do you want to invite the president down too?
Absolutely.
All right.
We'll show him how it can be solved.
All right, Glenn Spencer, the American Border Patrol, we thank you very much for your time, and we appreciate it. John, he says he's got a solution that involves both manned surveillance and this new technological seismic measurement. We'd like your take on this. Does this sound like a reasonable way or one of the factors to solve this problem? Why don't you tweet us your thoughts at Newsmax TV, hashtag America's Forum. There's also newsmaxtv.com/comments as America's Forum continues.